All right, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about silver. How high can the price go, and what is really going on in that market? Now, today we are talking to Mike. He is the CEO of our main show sponsor, Vizsla Silver. And, I remember when we first announced Vizsla was going to be our main show sponsor, Mike and I really hit it off. I was really impressed by the time he was 30 years old, he'd already successfully built and sold his first company. And so I was very excited about it. But what's been amazing to watch is truly the trajectory of the company. They really have hit a home run, and it's been awesome to see. I know many of you watching this video got in early, and the stocks continued to climb even without the price of silver climbing. And that's because it's seen that the company's built on strong foundations, right? Like a lot of companies have fallen off during silver and gold's inability to move higher. You guys have went up significantly. And so make sure you hit the like button on this video, comment down below, go Vizsla, go right there down below, go Vizsla Silver, go right there down below. And Mike, first of all, I told you off air as well, but congratulations on everything.
Well, thanks, Jake. And as we were talking off air, this is my favorite interview, and I love catching up with you. And I'm very glad that we're able to sponsor your show and have this partnership. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. So give us an update. First of all, I wouldn't just go right into an update, but you guys have really crushed it. I mean, since the last time we talked, your stock price is soaring. You've had a lot of great news. Give us an update.
Yeah. So, the big thing that's happened recently with Vizsla is, we seem to have basically crossed an invisible line, let's say, moving from, a company that was focused on exploration and with goals of moving towards development and production. We've shown now with two veins that we have, the Napoleon vein and the Tajitos vein, that there's very likely going to be a very large resource here at Panuco. So, in the last month or two, we really crossed that invisible line and showed that to the market and to investors. And the stock price has essentially doubled since then. I think it can go a lot higher from here. We're really just kind of taking a bit of a breather, and we've just announced this financing, $60 million bought deal financing for the company. That's going to give us a huge amount of runway and ability now to drill further and move further to production. And I suspect that we'll be in production sooner than most people think, when they think about Vizsla. So I'm very, very excited. And of course, the only reason that we've been able to get to this point is that we have an excellent team, and the team in Mexico, our technical team, the board. Vizsla is a very special company in the sense that we have really a tier one team.
Yeah, there's a million gold and silver stocks, and there's a million that have got a great story. They aren't producing yet, but they have a great story. And obviously, as I get approached by tons of them that want to come on the show, do an interview, tell their story. And, I try to be as selective as I can. And one of the things that I loved about your company at the time, this was before you guys had really taken off, and you told a great story, and you said, look, we have a real shot to production in a shorter period of time. You said, I think we've got a great resource, but we've really seen that happen now and materialize in real time. In essence, in slang terms, you kind of called your shots, on your predictions. So Give us an idea of, wow, the silver price hasn't popped above 30. And we'll talk about silver and some of the macro stuff here in a minute. But if anything, the price of silver has slightly dropped, yet your stock has went up a lot. So give us a little bit more of the details of why you believe that is.
Well, I think the big reason is that we're a fundamentally better company than we were 12 months ago. Last summer, we made a significant discovery, one of the highest grade silver discoveries around the world, actually. I think it was the top three in the world. For that year, and certainly one of the highest grade discoveries in Mexico in many years. And so our stock took off, and on the back of that was June, July, and our stock went from we just raised money at 40 cents. I started the company, we IPO'd at 15 cents back in 2018.
Wow.
So we kind of traded between 15 cents and the dollar, and trading down about 40 cents, and made that discovery, and the stock went to almost $3 Canadian. And since then, the share price kind of settled back down, and we had to do a lot of hard work. I mean, it's one thing to make a discovery; that the harder part is to kind of backfill that value through exploration. And we kind of persisted and kept drilling, and what we showed was that Napoleon and Tajitos, the two main veins that we're focused on, by the way, are less than 5% of the overall veins, the vein extent across the district. We're really just getting started here. It's been less than 10 months since this big discovery. We made that discovery, and what we had to do is backfill that value. And so we did that through exploration. Now we've shown that we have, two major vein discoveries that are growing and growing by the day. We have 8 drill rigs turning there. We showed that we're serious about actually building this district. People might have thought, oh, great drill hole. Are they capable of moving this forward? And we've said it before. I'll say it again. We intend to take this to production. We'll do that. We have the team to do it. Vizsla is really becoming, more and more of a near-term producer by the day as we continue drilling.
Yeah, awesome story. Everyone says that's their goal, and maybe, as you said, they have a good drill hole, but it seems like not that many become producing during a bull market, or a bull market we're beginning to enter. Now, give us the kind of aerial view. You've stated, look, you believe this can be a producer. How far away do you believe that you are from something like that?
Well, I guess there's sometimes it's difficult, keeping in line with the regulations. And what I can say is, in terms of forward-looking statements with regards to production, of course, we need to continue to drill and make a resource, and then show economics around that resource. But I suspect that we'll be able to exercise the option to buy the permitted operating mill that we have under option to us in the near term. And on the back of that, we'll have, essentially an operating center on the property. I think that we could be in production sooner than anybody really suspects. And I think that's going to be a major surprise to the market. Now, I can't really give a date yet because we haven't done the requisite studies, but I suspect it's sooner than people suspect.
Good stuff. Okay, so you guys are a company that obviously is in the silver market. Let's talk a little bit about silver. Silver has not been able to break above 30 from a purely business perspective. As a company that owns silver in the ground and intends to produce it and sell it and mine it in the whole 9 yards, all of the macro factors look incredibly exciting, I would think, to a mining executive such as yourself, in that there's a real retail demand that's popping to a new level due to the distrust in the monetary factors, the money printing, and it's nearly becoming a meme, which of course is driving the price of silver higher. In addition to that, the lockdowns have devastated the global economy, and so what happens? That's when government comes to the rescue, and they say they have all these infrastructure plans, and they only need to print $900 trillion and everything's going to be better. And a big part of that is silver, because we're talking about EVs, we're talking about renewables, we're talking about solar panels, we're talking about the electrification of the world, and we're talking also about a huge growth in the amount of people in the world. We rarely talk about silver in China. Sometimes people talk about gold in China in terms of, they're storing to maybe build their own gold-backed currency, what have you. But rarely does anyone talk about silver in China. And the reason silver in China is important is because they also, the Chinese government knows they need to decrease the pollution that they're creating in their country. They have a huge country, big electrical needs, and they know they need to do it. I mean, heck, 15, 20 years ago when my dad went there, the air pollution was bad. People dropped dead in the streets. They know they need to bring more solar. That's going to be more silver. So I've got to imagine the macro factors look very exciting as a silver company, correct?
Well, I think there's never been a better time to be in the silver business, and I suspect that it'll continue to get better. over time here. But I mean, the world's transitioning. This is a new era for energy, and you can't have this transition to this new era and a new kind of power regime without silver. Silver's critical to that. Electric vehicles, as you said, solar panels, you know, just the electrification of the world is kind of dependent on silver. And so I want to be right there providing, this much needed metal to the economy that needs it here with Vizsla.
Okay, so do you ever believe that there'll be a point in time which silver categorically won't be treated as a monetary metal, in that there's such an incredible industrial need for the future, and often the price of silver moves in an attachment to gold in a volatile up and down swing, but in relation to gold? Do you ever see a point where it moves more like copper or other important electrification and renewable metals?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think you just have to look back in history to see, for thousands of years now, that silver's been a monetary metal. Now that's the best part about silver. It's got the monetary metal benefit, and it's got the industrial application. So, we talk about this a lot, and even with Vizsla, there's two ways to win. There's the exploration, there's the production. What I love about silver is there's two ways to win. The inflation trade, the monetary metal trade. Looking back at history, that's obviously, it's been fundamental to money in history, and I don't suspect that'll change. No matter what the meme coins or the dog coins or all those other coins, I think silver is. I think who did I see? Henry Hendy on Twitter saying that silver is the original Dogecoin. Something like that. It was pretty funny, but it really is. And the reason that people say that is because it can go absolutely parabolic, and it's easier to buy and smaller quantities, so more people can buy it. When at times when it becomes increasingly in demand as a monetary metal. So I don't think it'll ever be replaced by the industrialization, of course, but I think the value of silver is going to increase to meet that demand.
You're right. That's very attractive for me as well, was the industrial and the retail demand of it. It gives a cool kind of, I guess, black swan type of vibe to it, in that you never know what could happen on the industrial side and you never know what could happen on the retail side. And since it's such a small market, it becomes attractive. Is that what drew you to silver versus gold, right? Because I believe you were 29 years old. You sold your copper company. You hit it big, and then you say, "Well, I'm going to go into silver now." Why?
Well, that's a good question. So actually, I was thinking about that just before we got on the call here. But there's something to do with silver that's kind of really interesting. There's really not a lot of good silver primary deposits out there, and there's not a lot of silver companies out there. There's, like you said, there's a million gold and silver companies. While there, I'd say 75% of that is going to be gold. And there's, it's interesting. So you have 1 million ounces of gold in, say, Ontario or someplace that's easy to mine, BC, and you have 100 million ounces or 80 million ounces of silver in Mexico, and the premium you get on a kind of an equivalency basis on silver is a lot higher. So even the markets, even the junior mining markets, value silver differently than gold, and there's a premium because it's rare, and that rarity and that premium, I think, comes through in how tight the market is as well too. It's such a incredibly tight market that if you think back to the 80s and the Hunt brothers, you have people trying to corner this market. You can't really do that with copper or other larger coal or something like that. It's a bit tougher to do. So there's a lot of reasons to like silver. I mean, there wasn't really one particular thing that so that, I woke up and said, hey, this is I'm going to dedicate the next 10 years of my life or 20 years of my life to finding it and getting it out of the ground. But what I love is the most exciting part about this, and is finding new deposits of metals that are really highly in demand and have this kind of insane upside potential, and so, imagine kind of going and finding that you could go find a huge amount of Dogecoin or Bitcoin or whatever it is, somewhere, and it's been overlooked for 400 years. And, all you got to do is actually just go and drill and do this kind of normal exploration work that should have been done in this district before. But for a few reasons in Mexico, that, the Panuco district that we have in Vizsla was just overlooked. And, so for me, it was a combination of, I love silver. I remember, holding silver coins, buying silver coins when I was a teenager and, young teenager and stuff like that. And, so silver, it's an amazing metal. It's a tight market. And, we saw an opportunity here in Mexico that was, I think it'll go down in history as one of the best silver districts ever. So it's really, it was an opportunity that we couldn't really pass up. And so, early on at Vizsla, it was kind of, we were somewhat criticized for having a large option payment. We didn't own the district. We needed to kind of show the potential here, but we were convicted on it. And so, the combination of high grade silver and the opportunity at hand really led me to that.
So, what would you say the difference you've seen when you guys got the option and you were looking for it? The sentiment in the silver market was really different than it is today. How would you assess where it is to where it is today?
Well, I mean, price was half basically when we signed the deal up back about 2 years ago. The price of silver was about half, and we were trying to raise money, trying to raise $6 million in fall and winter of 2019, and it was a difficult time. It was just silver was low. People didn't really care that much, and now of course COVID turned out to be the best thing for these precious metals and silver, and it was a kind of an incredible opportunity and chance to capitalize on this and be able to raise money and develop this asset. But I think the price outlook now, I think we're looking at, I wouldn't be surprised if silver heads to $50 shortly.
So let's talk a little bit about business. So as you know, one of the things that I like to talk a lot about is also kind of mindset and philosophies, and hear how people that have done a lot of great things have done them, because I feel like if people can peel back the layers a little bit on people that have achieved a lot, especially right now, it could be really valuable to people. And it's something obviously that we're not taught about. We don't really talk about how to get to the next level in our lives. And I know the people that listen to this show, want to continue getting to the next level, their success, their purpose, their financial freedom. So being that there's a zillion companies in gold and silver, and you guys have done, quite well, being that you've, been serially successful at your businesses, what do you think has been the most important success principles for you and also for the teams that you built, your small group of executives or what have you? What are the important success principles for you, Mike?
Well, for Vizsla, we have extreme ownership, that we've taken from Jocko and some of those books, of course. And so I think there's one.
What did you learn from that?
Yeah, the one thing, the big thing there is that people respond very well to having ownership in something, and if you can be generous with that and give ownership, and that's what Craig did to me. Craig, our chairman and my business partner and mentor and all these things. He gave me an opportunity. He said, you like. So the company was cobalt, had some copper and gold, but it was primarily cobalt. And we were sitting down and having a beer and talking about metals that we liked and stuff. And I said, I think cobalt's going to go for a run here soon. I think it could be a really interesting metal to go after. And he said, okay, well, I'll give you the money to do it, and you can own this amount of it, and I'll fund it, and you just go do it. And so that's kind of what started this whole thing, really. And so it's I think giving people an opportunity and autonomy and extreme ownership, and coupling that with being generous with an equity, ownership in the business is a great way to motivate people and build teams. People that feel like they're a part of the company that they're building. Who doesn't want to feel a part of it? I've had opportunities where I wasn't exposed to any equity, and be working in the mining industry, and kind of as an employee and not an owner and things like that. And it's not motivating at all. You want to be motivated by ownership and the upside potential. And that's why we're all in this business, right? So that's one big lesson there. The other thing is very important to us. The two other kind of core tenets are communication. Communication's obviously the most important thing in any relationship. And you're spending so much time and effort and energy building companies with people that become your dear friends and partners and things like that. And so communication is very, very important. It's the same thing in marriage or family life or anything there. And then the third one that's kind of important to me is the golden rule. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. And I think that's kind of that's a good way to build a foundation of people that want to come to work and want to work on the things that you come up with, or come up with ideas and work on them together. And we've got a great team here at Vizsla and Inventa and our group of companies, and we've got a lot of great people that have been attracted to working on these companies with us. And I think that's all part of it. I think is just valuing what other people do and giving them an opportunity to share in the upside of it all.
That's how you and Craig started working together?
Yeah, I'd met him through a friend, and
oh, really? That's cool.
Looking for a mentor and looking for, I had all these ideas and things that I was trying to do, and was looking for the right group of people to do it with, or right person to do it with, and I met Craig, and he backed me on a deal, and so I kind of felt like I wanted to repay him for his generosity there, and I just busted my ass. And then
that's a good story.
Built Vizsla because I wanted to go after other opportunities with him and some of our other, the guys on the board and stuff. And so, that kind of initial generosity turned into, a number of other companies.
So for those that don't know, talking about Craig Perry, he's former CEO of NextGen, incredibly successful uranium company that had a fantastic discovery and just all around very, very, very successful in the resource space. That's a cool story. So let me ask you, all right, so I feel like everybody gets opportunities. Even if we apply it specifically to mining, there's a lot of companies that have a chance to acquire, a pretty good property, or they have a good drill result, or you step out of mining, you look at everyday life. I feel like a lot of people have good ideas. It's just they don't get executed, or they don't have the wherewithal to see the goal through, or whatever it might be. How have you found seizing the opportunity? How do you do it? What's been important to you?
I think the big thing there is not being afraid to fail. That's I swear that's the big thing that prevents a lot of people from taking good chances and seizing opportunities is oh well, what if and lucky for me, I didn't have a good salary or a good job or anything like that. I didn't have a lot to lose. My wife and I, we just gotten, there's all these, I was able to kind of seize the moment and go after things. And I figured, well, if I lose everything, I'm young enough to kind of to go after it again. But I think, there's a saying that fortune favors the bold. And, I think you have to be willing to kind of risk a lot to take opportunities. And if, like Vizsla, we'd incorporated Vizsla, took it through an IPO. It was a small company, small public company, and I put a lot of effort, a couple of years of work into it, and my life savings, everything, all the money that I had, I basically kind of put into Vizsla to run it. And I was running it on my credit card at some point, basically making all the payments on credit cards, and in debt. I was owed lots of money by the company, basically to keep it all going before we really got into Mexico. And I figured, well, whatever, if this all blows up, I'm sure I can, figure out a way to kind of, make it all work. But I think that, the opportunities that you come across, you have to be willing to really risk a lot to go after them. I think the easy opportunities, you can go out there and I think that the biggest opportunities take a lot of risk, and I suppose that having that risk appetite is what can kind of give you an opportunity to go after some of the better looking projects out there.
Well, when I was just finishing up my point, I saw you kind of stick your arm out there. Were you saying do you have to go?
No, someone poked their head in.
Cool. Just wanted to check. So,
yeah, no.
So let's talk about, I'm curious about now communication, which especially in business, doesn't always turn out the way somebody wants, or they don't communicate as effectively to get the most out of a teammate, a partnership, a goal. The same thing happens in marriage. What have you learned about how to communicate effectively and be able to disagree and to be able to get the most out of one another? Real quickly, since you mentioned that, I think it's kind of an interesting skill.
Yeah, well, you know what, I'm not an expert at it, and I'm always learning. I think kind of taking the approach that we've taken, the approach of being willing to learn and always improve, I think is important. But from what I've learned so far, is that I think it's always better to be open in communication than try to hide something or hope that it goes away. And but you got to pick the right things. Small trivial thing that may have offended you or something like that. You could kind of just let it roll off your back like water off a duck's back, and move on. So, but the important things, I think it's important just to have an open conversation with people in your team or the people that you're working with. And it is hard, but sometimes those hard conversations give the best outcomes. So I think that's kind of the most important thing. But also the other thing that's important, I think, is having a hierarchy or a management style that allows people to kind of come and say, hey, look, I don't think we're doing this right, and this is why, and then being open to those conversations instead of saying, no, we're doing it this way, and get out of here. It's kind of managing on a flatter hierarchy, instead of just kind of dictating what happens. It's more having kind of an ongoing conversation about the goals and the pathway forward to those goals.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious because earlier in my career in business, especially, I didn't know how to have conversations about things, disagreements, and way to improve, so I would avoid them. And yeah. I think in some ways I held myself back, and it's something that I've been trying to build that skill more and more. And it's we aren't taught interpersonal skills that are essential to be financially successful. We're just taught here's this formula and here, memorize this thing. But there's certain, I found from all these people that I've been able to speak with on this channel, there's a lot of similar skills that the most successful people have. I mean, then you look at obviously like a legend like Rick Rule, and it's like he's so good with words. And so I was just kind of curious about communication, and so and kind of peeling the layers back of what's made you guys so successful.
Well, one of the big things there is actually just doing fun things together, which has been tough during this Canada. I traveled through, as an aside, I traveled through the States not so long ago, maybe 3-4 weeks ago to go down to the project, and it was in Arizona, and it was completely open. It's so funny. Canada, they just locked us down. They'd said no more patios, patios are closed, no more indoor dining, all this stuff, and locked us all down for a circuit breaker and stuff. It was pretty crazy.
Say, I'm only 90 minutes from Phoenix, so next time if you guys make a stop again, I didn't know you guys were stopping there. That's we're pretty close. But
Oh yeah, okay.
let me ask you about, you were talking about total ownership, and you were referring to a book by Jocko Willenick, or however you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
How has that book affected your life, your goals, you guys achieving and accomplishing your goals? Why'd you mention that book? What was good about it?
Well, it's funny because, I'm going to expose myself a little bit here, but I don't think I've actually read the whole book. I think I've heard him talk on a podcast or something like that, and maybe read the summary of it all. But it, essentially, it's kind of the the term that I put on just giving the opportunity for people that you brought together. You've hired and brought people into a company for a reason, and that reason is you trust their trust their judgment, trust their abilities. And actually, this is something that one of our directors, Simon Smirlik, is really, he's another mentor of mine. And Simon's probably one of the world's best mine builders. He's building mines all over the world. He runs Alsenko Engineering, fantastic company. And he said, look, you brought these people in to the company. Why don't you give them ownership over what they're doing, and trust them, and give them guidance, and but you brought them in for a reason, so you need to give them ownership over what they're doing and their outcomes. Obviously monitor that and be a part of it, but also the extreme ownership has to do with kind of the roles and
you're talking about that like a mantra that you guys live by, is taking total ownership of the goals, of the opportunity, and then also applying that into how you're setting up the company, or of bringing as many people involved into total ownership as possible.
And then also giving exposure to the upside of that. So if you tell someone, hey, look, you have the pleasure of taking all of this on, but you're not getting any of the upside. You're just getting your salary and that's it. Then people say, well, how does that make, it doesn't really compute that well. So I think you need to give that exposure to the success, right? And I think there's always this kind of attitude, or sometimes there's this attitude in this business where it's zero sum. I get it all, you get nothing. This is my company, not yours. I'll take all the options, I'll take all the shares. But that's a good way to kind of you can have 100% of zero, basically, because it's not likely that your company is going to succeed, because it's all about teamwork, it's all about people. So if you say, well, I'd rather give up some of my exposure, and rather make it so that the team feels like they're winning and we're all winning together. That's another way to kind of create that extreme ownership, and another way to build a team that's all kind of aligned and motivated.
All right. I like all that. So now I wanted to kind of peel that back a little bit, but let's look at seizing this opportunity in real time. And this opportunity, seems to depend a lot on, of course, the price of silver, more importantly, the macro and economic, the political, the larger social ramifications, and what direction this seems to be going in. We talked about ways to maximize our success and our potential right now in these very interesting times. Now, to kind of wrap up here, what do you see moving forward from a global level? I know in America, they're just basically talking about printing an infinite amount of money. I don't know what's going on in Canada. It seems like other countries are as well. Give us your 2 cents on how you see this playing out, and how this affects silver going forward.
Well, there's a few kind of things that I've noticed, I picked up recently. There's a number of elections happening in South America, and some of these governments, or most of them, seem, and even looking at places like Colombia as well, there just seems to be kind of a resurgence of socialism, even in places in South America. But geez, in Canada, without getting into kind of the politics of it all, but it seems to me that the populations of the world are starting to say, well, we deserve more stuff, and we want the government to pay for it. And that's what we're starting to see here. I think as we come out of COVID, there's just going to be an inordinate amount of money printing to satisfy the population, to cover all the recovery and build on infrastructure and give people jobs. So the theme that I see macro is just nonstop money printing and stimulus for the foreseeable future. And I think that's great if you're in the business of real assets. If you're in the business of finding new deposits and selling and mining real assets, hard assets, I think that's it's obviously going to be a difficult environment to live in because the taxes are going to be increasing, and I don't know. Well, it's interesting to see what will happen to kind of personal liberties and freedoms and things like that. A little bit scary after being locked down for over a year here in Canada. But I think that there's the big macro trend that I see is just nonstop money printed, and that's great if you're mining and finding the world's only industrial precious metal.
Okay, so let's kind of to wrap up. I'd kind of like to know a little bit about inflation. In my opinion, I feel like more than ever, I feel like everybody's starting to notice that things are more expensive, even if they had no idea maybe they never even had uttered the word inflation. They never considered macroeconomic factors, et cetera, et cetera. And for instance, I don't have a television that, I have one that I could, play a movie on with my wife connected to the internet or whatever, but I don't have the news or cable or whatnot. And so I went over to my wife's grandmother's house, and she said, I'm going to hit the news on real quick. And I just happened to be sitting there, and I was like, be interesting to see what, TV programming is happening. Turns it on, the first word, and inflation has jumped up to an all new level. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of weird, because my channel was a conspiracy theory when it started 13 months ago. And now I feel like I went to California, and, gas, all these things seem more expensive. Curious what Vancouver is like. I know it's one of the more expensive places in the world to live already. It's a very expensive city. And I heard some wild stories about people paying 100% asking prices on houses in Vancouver, and all these types of weird things. So what does inflation look like over there? Are you noticing increase in the cost of goods of things? What does it look like?
Well, there's a couple of things. Like there's lumber has gone up like doubled or more. I mean, we just, we built some swings, kind of a swing set at my parents' house there, for the kids and all that stuff. And like the lumber was incredible for that. It was just a huge jump in the price of building supplies. I mean, that's exactly where you see inflation, right? And then gas has gone up a huge amount. Since last year. Food, you go to the grocery store. I think I bought a cucumber for $2.50 yesterday. Like I remember I just look at the price tag of all these things. God, that's a lot higher than it used to be. But here the thing that's happening though, and what will happen, I think, is as these numbers become properly, because there's algorithms and there's investors that need to justify their decisions based on reported numbers of CPI and things like that. And as that we're starting to see that now with gold, but as those numbers kind of get reported through the traditional channels, you'll start to see that it's more acceptable for generalist money managers and generalist investors to start buying that. And that's when we're going to start to see the kick up in precious metals. Like it's already been, copper. I think you coined the term Bitcoin.
I didn't coin it. That was the head of the commodities division of Goldman Sachs.
Oh,
yeah, but it's a good term.
Yeah, I like that. And pork bellies and all these things, they've started to really take off because it's a different market than the precious metals. But I suspect that we're going to see gold and silver and these prices just, scream higher very shortly.
Yeah, what's interesting to kind of as we come full circle here. you said for some of these fund managers, it's kind of like they need to this and that. Well, what's interesting is that it's almost like we believed for so long there was zero consequence to printing as much money as humanly possible. And now we're actually seeing it. And it's like people need to see it for a few months until they actually grasp it, because people buy gold and silver when you truly understand that you're losing faith in the currency. And it's like people don't want to, there's a cognitive dissonance almost where it's like they need to see, no, this isn't temporary, that's gone in 30 days. And I feel like, you hit the nail on the head. It's almost going to be like an event when there's the 100th monkey effect. And it's when, they get some monkeys to do one thing. And when you get enough of them, all the rest of them do it. And it's kind of like we're the same way on a herd mentality. And I think that's going to create a big rush into silver.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And we're in the very early innings of a long-term commodities cycle and bull run here. I firmly believe that. And so, this is the time to be buying these metals, buying these companies. It's pretty much I think it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity right now.
Amen. So, Mike, thanks for joining us. Where can we find Vizsla Silver?
Well, thanks, Jake. It's vizslasilver.ca. We have Twitter and YouTube and all those things. So, but it's all off of our website, vizslasilver.ca.
Trading in Canada and the OTC in the United States. For everyone listening, make sure you hit the like button on this video to send it out in the YouTube universe so more people see it. If there's some questions you want me to ask Mike next time about silver, macro, mining stocks, etc., give us a comment down below and let us know what those are right there down below. Be sure to comment down, go Vizsla, go right there down below. Comment down, go Vizsla, go right there down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe, that bell notification to get notified for future videos, because YouTube's always changing their algorithm. And any last words, Mike?
No, just buy silver.